Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Bang Si-Hyuk Hate Comments versus Facts. What's actually true? Now, this is interesting subject, but this is like a Hybe fan page, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a little biased,
I
but
mostly
let's see.
created Bang Si-Hyuk related content in English, mainly to help international audiences who might miss the nuances of what's happening in Korea. But as I watched the Korean coverage of this investigation, headline after headline, recycling the same shallow framing, I
I
realized
feel
that
like
the
he wants
real
to be credible too. I don't think he's going to be like
We'll
leaning.
see. Well, his channel name is Hybe Boy.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more bias can you get? And then naming your channel after Hybe.
Yeah.
language barrier isn't just English versus Korean. Even Korean speakers are being blocked from understanding what's actually going on because so much of the reporting is repetitive, sensationalized, and lacking context. So I first made this video in Korean, trying to explain the case clearly to viewers inside Korea who were left confused or overwhelmed. Now, once it was done, I figured that why not make an English version also? Because everyone deserves to understand the story properly. And also structure this video as simply as possible. First, a Q&A session that walks through the facts, and then like a comment-style rebuttal section addressing the most common accusations one by one. So yes, this video started in English, but I felt like making it in English version also matters because misunderstanding isn't only about language. Sometimes it's about how poorly the story is told. Okay, so let's start here. As you probably know, recently, Bang Si-Hyuk, chairman of Hybe, aka Hitman Bang, returned to Korea from the US, and headlines erupted saying police were now launching a full investigation into him for so-called fraudulent market manipulation. Now, in
I
short,
thought they already launched the investigation before we came back. He came back for the investigation because we saw the whole investigation thing like a month and a half ago, but when he was in LA.
he's accused of telling
You said he
investors back in
lives in LA.
2019
I thought so because he's been there for a good minute. I don't know.
19
Well, okay, I don't know if it's exactly LA, like somewhere in the States though. Seems
that
like it.
Hybe had no plans to go public, only for a private equity fund connected to him to buy up their shares, and then sharing hundreds of billions of won in profit after the IPO. Now, critics say that this wasn't properly disclosed to financial authorities or during the listing review. And before flying back, Bang Si-Hyuk emailed Hybe employees worldwide to apologize and said he would cooperate fully with the investigation, just as he did previously when questioned by the financial regulator. The real problem is that none of this makes sense from headlines alone. And that's why I went back, read the original filings and financial journalism, pieced together the timeline, and tried to translate everything into a human-sized explanation. Now, to be clear, I'm not doing this because I want to defend Bang Si-Hyuk, because, he's a billionaire. He does not need my help. And honestly, I barely have time as it is. I'm too busy studying other artists. And in fact, I am actually currently working on another cipher to talk about this whole issue while doing my own music and rap. And within the verse, I think there are like couplets that says something like, "Honestly, I barely have time. I'm too busy standing BTS. So why on earth would I go out of my way to defend Bang PD? He's a billionaire. He'll be fine," or something like that. But what does bother me is watching the media and comment section trolls weaponize like half baked headlines to sway public opinion, using Hybe and Bang Si-Hyuk as an example to punish or something. And I hate thinking about what that does to Hybe's artists and their fans and employees and the families behind them, behind the employees. Because like imagine watching your favorite artist company or your workplace dragged through the mud in the news every day. It wears you down. And imagine you are like parents of, your children who work.
I don't know. Maybe in Korea, like this is rare, but here in the States, I feel like big companies they had lawsuits all the time. It's like you go to work like any other day. Like how many lawsuits? I don't know. Facebook has, Amazon has, it's like a 5 lawsuits every single day. There's something always a lawsuit. So like I don't really think that employees are affected by it one bit. You just go to work, you get paid, you don't care what's going on. I really don't think the employees care that
To me,
Hybe is being sued. That's just
but yeah, it would be unusual. This is not their shouldn't. I don't think it's their first lawsuit.
yeah, like I don't, maybe like in Korea this is like rare. I don't know, but here in the States, like the lawsuits is like everybody getting sued left and right. The lawsuit is really not a big deal at all.
Or at least we don't see it talked about. Like, no, because it seems like when there's one, that's all we talk about.
I mean, there's a lot of laws like Google, like the AT&T, all
in
these
South
companies.
Korea,
In South
though.
Korea.
Because it seems like once there's one, that's all we talk about.
I don't know, but there's like with Hype, there's 3 or 4 already here. Like the
Yeah,
Min
maybe
Hee-jin,
that's
it's
what's
like
shocking,
I don't know.
probably,
So
yeah.
like to me, I'm
But
like
that's a lot. Okay, maybe that's a lot all at once.
not really. Come
Because
on.
it's personal. Because it's like almost personal business matter.
You know how many lawsuits are against
Yeah,
Google?
but it's like
Who cares?
probably like for intellectual property, maybe like for ads and stuff like that. This type of practice. But like when it gets to like personally a CEO involved in the matter saying to X disinformation, that seems a little bit more, gossipy.
Would you care if you worked?
As an employee,
I wouldn't care.
depending on my position.
Fair enough. If I'm a C-level position, yes, it does matter. But if I'm like an accountant getting paid average wage, whatever average wage is in Korea, why do I care what's going on with the CEO? Like, I wouldn't give a fuck.
Work at the company and seeing all these headlines attacking the company, you know, it wouldn't feel good. So even though I would much rather be making fun artist-related content, this kept nagging at me, and that's why I made this video. Again, this isn't a story that you can understand just by skimming a few articles. So I went back to the source, dug through paid reports from the Bell and the Deal sites, like the professional media agencies, with expertise in capital markets industry, and tried to lay it all out as simply as possible. Okay, and I think if you go to this Korean video, I mean, I also laid out these templates for people who will rage without watching the video, and these are the sorts of comments that you will see in Korean whenever they see videos talk about Bang Si-Hyuk, criticizing the messenger, not the message. All right. Anyways, let's start here. The first question that everyone asks is, why has Bang Si-Hyuk been indicted? So according to the Securities and Futures Commission, aka the SFC, between 2018 and 2019, Bang Si-Hyuk allegedly suggested that Hype's IPO would be delayed. Certain investors then sold their shares, which were purchased by a private equity fund linked to him. And when Hype eventually did go public, those shares shot up in value, earning Bang Si-Hyuk's side roughly 400 billion Korean won in profit. And that...
So, the allegation, if true, is a crime. What is said here, if that did happen, that is a crime.
brings us to the keyword that the SFC keeps using, that is deception. And what does the SFC mean by that? In Korean, is kimang, deception. The deception here means causing someone to make a wrong decision by leading them to believe something untrue. The authorities argue that Bang Si-Hyuk made investors think the IPO would be delayed so that they would sell. But those familiar with the capital markets point out that even regulators seem cautious in their language, because unlike past cases, the SFC didn't say Bang Si-Hyuk lied outright, only that he made it seem as though the IPO would be delayed. And even when you're the final
That's
decision...
a little bit wishy-washy.
Nah, to me, that's hype apologist talking here. This is still a crime. Like he didn't say outright, he implied it. What's the difference? Nah, no. I'll say I am hype apologist. This is hype apologist.
To me, it's wishy-washy.
Nah, this is not. This is still a crime.
To me, it don't look like a crime.
It's a crime, Michelle. You you don't lie outright. You like.
So okay,
It's
but
a
so
crime.
example of what he said. He said, I don't know, maybe, yeah, but he didn't say with certainty that what will happen.
I don't know.
Did he say with certainty what will happen?
If he it's obviously for us to know what he said would have to be a recording.
Yeah.
But
And then to have him on the hook, there has to be something definitive. You can't just say
also right.
He still
I think
gotta
you're right.
record
Yeah.
and tell people what it is.
It shouldn't be a he said she said situation.
No.
There should be proof that he actually said that, like an email, so we could actually see what he said. Because that matters. If he said something like, I don't even know, what would be Because the person,
Because it means I don't know. Could be a delay, maybe not. I'm not too sure.
yes,
I didn't tell you anything.
if he said I'm not sure, then that is not a
I didn't tell
crime.
you
No,
anything.
no. But if he said, yeah, it seems like it may be delayed, but it might not, but it might be delayed. That to me is more on the crime side, because it's you kind of
You leaning more to it might be
yes,
delayed.
you leaning to it might be delayed, but you like are not confident about it.
Yeah.
That's yes. But if you said I have no idea, like if you literally just said I don't know if it will go through or not, yeah, I don't know if you could hold him accountable for that, because
The
that's
thing
kind of he just plead the fifth basically. I
They
don't.
say this man don't really talk nowadays. So who is he talking to like that? To have him on the hook?
I think for this to be proven true, there has to be email, text message, voice recording, what he said exactly. If this is just somebody claiming he said that, that is not enough. That is not. You cannot just what the person said. That's what Bang said, and all of a sudden Bang is a criminal. No, don't work like that. There has to be proof, and when there is proof, I like to see the proof. Then we can talk about it. What he said, then we can
Someone wanted a deal. I guess someone got caught. They want that
I don't
deal.
know, but we have to see what was exactly what was said, because this is right now. I don't. I don't even know what to think.
Maker, like IPO timing is hard to predict, and it can change based on business conditions, and that's why experts say that it's difficult for the SFC to prove intentional deception here. Now, what is
No,
the
but it matters what he
investment share?
said. That's
Because
what I'm saying.
Yeah, but if it's already difficult to predict, what is this man gonna say? He's a
No, but
fortune
what
teller.
he's saying? No, he's saying, are we intending to go public? Yes or no? Is he saying no? We
He
don't.
didn't give a definitive answer.
Okay, but if he said we don't intend to go public, we might, but we don't intend to right now, and then they go public 2 months later, that's deception.
Duh, 2 months later is later.
No, that's deception.
At that time, right now, they didn't think so. They didn't give a time.
So
frame
they
to-
decided to go public just like that.
in 2 months.
Yeah, you can file the paper, do everything in 2 months to go
I
public.
don't know. You tell me.
I don't think so. If he said we do intend to go public, but I don't know how long it will take, and they
Because we did see bureaucracy. I don't know if bureaucracy is fast in South Korea.
okay, but what I'm saying, if he said we intend to go public, I'm just not sure how long it's gonna take. So it's up to you what you do. You know, it might take longer then there's nothing wrong with what he said. Again,
But he can't really tell people when they're going public
No.
or not.
yeah, but the intent. Are we going public? Yes or no? If he said we intend to go public, and we just don't know how, when, whatever, there's nothing wrong with that. The intention was always to go public. There's just whatever. But if he said if we do not intend to go public and then we went public, that is a problem. Unless it's like 2 years later, well then yeah, of course. But if it's like 2 months later, no, that is a problem. But this we're sitting here debating about something we don't know. So like it's really hard to say anything because we're just imagining stuff right now. We don't know what was said.
Investment industry skeptical about. Because many people believe that those investors, original investors, didn't sell because they were fooled, but because they needed to. For example, LB Investment had a fund expiring and their own IPO coming up. So taking profit on hype through the secondary market made sense. They even approached hype first about selling and later bragged publicly that they made over 100 Korean billion won from the investment. Now, Legend Capital also faced fund expiry and LP pressure. Alpha Round, on the other hand, was caught in the something called line fund crisis, redemption crisis. So in other words, they chose to sell, and none of them complained after hype listed. Now the next.
Okay, so who's suing hype then if they don't have no complaints about hype?
Yeah, because they seem they were going to sell
'Cause,
regardless
yeah,
of what was going to happen.
they're happy with their sale. So who's suing hype then?
Next logical question is this: what are earnouts? So here's a quote from one of the paid articles, like subscribers only articles within the Bell and the Deal site platforms, telling you about what really went on back in the day in the capital markets industry. So you know the backstory like this. In LB Investment's case, their fund was about to mature and they were preparing for their own listing, so it was natural for them to exit. They wanted to lock in returns and sold hype shares on the secondary market to stick investment at a high profit. LB Investment had initiated conversations about exiting as early as 2018.
So is LB Investment suing them now? Or why are we talking about this LB Investment?
Look for a new buyer to support its early investors' liquidity needs, and Stick came in that role. In October 2018, Stick bought 12.4% for 103.9 billion Korean won. LB publicly promoted the success of the deal. Their CEO even told the press they made 100 Korean won from the big hit investment. Now, even though I said that this is a paid article, they released it for free after a few days. So they first, open their premium articles for subscribers, then release them for free after a few days. Okay, so you can go read them if you want. I think I have already translated a few of them into English and uploaded them on my Patreon page. Anyways, now the next logical question is, what are earnout and putback options? Earnout is a contract where executives receive a share of gains only if the investment succeeds. Okay, so in this case, we're talking about Bang Si-Hyuk Hate IPO case. And putback option, on the other hand, is a clause that forces executives like Pang to reimburse investors if the IPO fails. And the SFC calls Bang Si-Hyuk's earnout profit-taking deal unfair. But the industry says that this kind of risk and reward structure
What's going on?
I'm trying to understand why would they call it unfair if the definition of earnout is a contract where executive receives a percentage of gains if should the investment succeed, right? Investment did succeed, they went public. So Bang, who was the executive, received the earnout. Where is unfairness in that? I'm a little confused by that.
Was it exorbitant or were it flagged as unusual?
Okay, maybe the amount was overly big. Okay, that because that's the only thing that would make sense. Otherwise, if that,
then that means what are the odds?
structure is totally standard in private equity deals. And what about this? Didn't retail investors lose big after Hive's IPO? So it's kind of true because Hive stock dropped on its first day. But that up and down pattern was very common in the IPO market at the time. And Hive's low free float, meant that the fall wasn't particularly unusual. And if you look at
yeah, the fall, I don't know if you can fault Bang for the fall of the stock. The moment it went public, that's out of his hands. Like that's just the market decides what to do with it.
other huge IPO cases that happened at the time, that up and down movement, and then shooting up and then plummeting pattern was quite common. Okay, and many of them have not even still recovered their stock prices, like KakaoBank and KakaoPay. Okay, next up, wasn't even the National Pension Service in Korea a victim? And actually, no, this is not the case because NPS, National Pension Service, they invested in both the early LB fund and the Sticks pre-IPO funds, and actually made billions in profit on Hive's listing, and they likely made more in post-listing trades as well. Okay, now how about this? Why is Easton PE such a big deal, or why are they controversial? Because it was set up by Bang Si-Hyuk's longtime colleague named Kim Jung-dong, and that fund signed earnout and putback contracts with Bang Si-Hyuk. And some people claim that past investors weren't aware of how close that relationship was. But Bang Si-Hyuk's side argues that Kim Jung-dong wasn't even on Hive's payroll at the time, and that investment managers joining boards post-transactions is common market practice.
This is a little sketchy. That his friend signed the earnout and put back contracts with him, and the other people didn't know about it. I think so.
Is it because he's the friend?
I think is the friend part is that is sus. I think now going back to the Earnouts options, why is it not fair? It's because other investors didn't know about it. They didn't know about it. Okay, this complicates things.
That leads to another question.
Explain what's going on now. I mean, if
this is what he's being accused of. That's what we're seeing.
Difference between Easton PE Fund number 1 and Fund number 2. Fund number 1 was created in June 2019 to buy out an insider's stake. To be specific, it was actually the vice president, Choi Yu-jung, her entire stakes. So conditions were very investor friendly. No earnout, only downside protection. Now, Fund 2, which was created in November 2019, it was launched after BTS exploded internationally. So competition was strong, and standard terms, including earnout, were used. And the industry sees that as a natural difference based on timing and purpose. Now back to Kim Jong-dong. Why is former CEO Kim Jong-dong even being argued about? The SFC suspects that Bang Si-Hyuk and Kim Jong-dong colluded. But Kim was not in any high position when the funds were set up, nor was he running them. And critics say that it's too much to call it conspiracy just because they are acquainted. Now,
let me put it this way. It is a conspiracy, right? Like conspiracy theory that they conspired. But if there is proof, this could be crime. This is something that you need to prove. Of course, you can't just say, "Oh, they did that," and they have no proof to back it up. But what they are alleging, if that did happen, it does not look good. The fact that they were not on the same on the board together, or that is immaterial. The other person running the capital firm, he could just assign somebody who's obviously his inferior to do whatever he tells him to do. So that has no meaning whatsoever. This is a strong accusation, but we need to see proof.
what happens from here? This now heads into the court system. Many expect 2 years or more of litigation, possibly up to the Supreme Court. Until then, we won't know if the court sees this as intentional deception or simply a technically aggressive but legal transaction. Okay, so we will have to wait and see. But that wraps up the Q&A for people seeing this topic for the first time or still having a hard time grasping the gist of it. Okay. But the problem is, the online comment sections, especially in Korea, tell a very different story. Like, with nothing but headlines in hand, people act like they already know all the facts and go straight into throwing accusations. Facts get twisted and context is lost. But mind you, I'm not sure whether these people who write comments are just a general public or those who have certain agenda in their mind. Who knows? That's hard to prove. So now, I want to walk through the most common types of hate comments or accusations and, try to lay out facts, some of which could debunk these comments one by one, okay? Not just to say you are wrong, but to show why they are not correct and where the misunderstanding comes from, okay? So the most common accusation I see goes like this. Bang Si-Hyuk tricked all the investors and ran off with the money. But the truth is that the major early investors like LB Investment and Earnouts sold their high stakes at profits ranging from hundreds to thousands of percent.
That's immaterial. The fact that they sold for profits doesn't mean anything. They sold for profits, yeah, but they could have sold for even bigger profits if they didn't sell. That has no bearing whatsoever.
And some exited because their funds were expiring or they needed liquidity. And despite what regulators are suggesting,
unless they themselves come out and say that's why they're exited, we can't just assume that's why they're exited. That is not how this works. We can't say, oh yeah, it looks like you needed liquidity, that's why you exited. No, you can't say somebody did that because of what you think they did that. No, it doesn't work like that.
Evidence that these investors
that's not a good counterclaim.
Most cashed out willingly. Then you will hear something like he lied to investors and bought the shares cheap, even though the IPO was basically happening already. But again, at that time, each of those investors had very clear, independent reasons.
Once again, same thing. Okay, why are we talking about this? Are they the ones suing? Because if they're the ones suing, then these arguments are flawed. Like, you can't say, oh, they had their own reasons. They wouldn't sue then. Clearly. Then, because if they are not suing, if somebody else is suing, then why are we talking about these people? These people are irrelevant. If they're not the ones suing, these people have whatever they sold for, they're happy with what happened. Somebody is clearly unhappy. Somebody is suing.
Why it couldn't be them suing still? Because they could have felt like they could have gotten more. Like, it wasn't enough. Because sometimes it's just
but that's
greed.
Still okay, but that's still wrong. Like, unless they come out and say, oh, this is why we sold and we're happy, that's not why they sold. We can't just say, oh, that's why they sold. We don't know why they sold. Yeah, like, it might look like that's what they did, but to me, it looks like Bang did some shady shit too, but that doesn't mean that he did that. That's what it looks like. So the same thing, it looks like they sold for that reason, doesn't mean that they did that for that reason. So I just don't know why we keep bringing these three companies in, because if they didn't sue, they're immaterial, they're irrelevant. So somebody is clearly unhappy with this. So who is that somebody? Who's
A
suing him?
competitor?
Well, somebody's suing him. I don't know who's suing him.
One fund.
Oh wait, maybe nobody's suing him. Maybe just SEC investigating him. Maybe that's what's happening here.
Unprompted? Like they would.
But I would think there would be some sort of prompt. No, would they just come randomly and
Do an audit? Because listen, when you come out and you say you made this amount of money and everyone is down, that can raise flags where SEC can do investigations. Say, huh, you made that amount of money? How is that even okay? That's why was it abnormal to what the times were for it when it was sold? But then I can say, okay, SEC, I was coming forward to investigate. Because that's why you shouldn't brag when you make all this money.
okay, but then SEC should subpoena those companies, and those companies will say that they intend to sell anyways, or
Oh,
they
I think so.
I think that's a simple resolution to that.
We will.
Was about to expire, another was under pressure from institutional LPs, and another was facing a redemption crisis due to something called Lime scandal. And they chose to sell. They chose to sell. The fact that none of them sued after the IPO is a big sign that the word deception doesn't really fit, because none of them complained or took legal actions after Hive went public IPO. Another popular take is this. Pang Si-Hyuk said Hive wasn't going to IPO. That's straight up fraud. Except those comments were made in late 2019, when Hive, the comment that Bang Si-Hyuk allegedly made, it was made in late 2019 when Hive was still negotiating with SoftBank's Vision Fund. Okay, their top priority, wasn't IPO, was rather receiving direct investment from SoftBank's Vision Fund. And the actual IPO process didn't formally start until January 2020, when the underwriter was selected. So not announcing an unconfirmed IPO is actually standard in the industry.
Well, so who did he not tell about the IPO? The current investors or the press? Because if he didn't tell the press, yeah, like he's not supposed to. Why would he tell the press? But if he didn't tell investors, oh, we're not launching, but then launched from November to January, that's way too close. He clearly intended to launch. There's no way he just woke up December 1st. You know what? Let's launch. No way. No. So it depends who he didn't say that to. If he just told the press that, oh, we ain't doing it, yeah, whatever, press, who cares? But if he didn't tell investors, private investors, that if he told them, oh, we're not launching, but then in December he decided to launch, that's fraud.
So it's hard to call that a deliberate lie. What about this? Even if they didn't lose money, meaning original investors, those investors still lost out on what they could have made. So, in other words, this refers to like the lost opportunity. And that sounds emotionally valid, but legally speaking, that's not a loss. The law only
That's
counts
interesting.
realized and actual financial damage. Like saying
Not
they
even if
could
you
have made
backdoored
more
me
if
out
they
of
had
it,
waited.
though.
It's called opportunity.
I don't know.
I feel like that's also fraud.
I think it is fraud, but it is immaterial because they're not. It doesn't seem like they're suing. So
So
that
no one's coming forward
yeah,
saying they
there's
lost
no
opportunity.
Opportunity cost, and you cannot use that to charge someone with fraud. Now let's move into the earnout arguments. Like saying something like sharing billions through an earnout is obviously unfair. And actually, earnouts are totally standard in private equity. Executives only get paid if the investment succeeds, and they take downside risk through a putback clause. And in this case, it was investors who insisted on that structure, not Bang Si-Hyuk, it turns out. If both risk and reward are shared, calling it a scam is kind of oversimplifying. How about this? Bang Si-Hyuk hid the earnout contract, and that's illegal. Not necessarily, because whether it even had to be disclosed is a legal gray area. Back in 2020, revenue sharing deals between specific shareholders often weren't considered material, as just a financial term, material items in IPO filings. And Hive and law firms and the underwriter review it and made a judgment call. And yeah, they approached and worked with.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. To me, this does not look legal. Hiding, no, like you hide, you have some sort of backdoor deal. Earnout with one investor, but not with the other. I don't know. This does not look right to me. I I don't buy
How
this.
you excuse that?
I do not buy this. No, I'm sorry.
Multiple major law firms and major underwriters.
That's
and
like,
made a
even if it is, let's say, okay, it's not illegal. If it is not illegal, okay, but it's highly unethical to do that. That is, I would never want to do business with this person ever in my life again.
judgment call. And ultimately, it's for the court to decide if it was material or not. How about this? Fund number one, we kind of briefly talked about this, right? Fund number one had no earnout, but fund number two did. So obviously they cooked something up in between. And actually, like I said, the two funds were totally different. Fund number one was more like an emergency liquidity vehicle to clean up an insider's stake. To be specific, Choi Yoo-jung, vice president and co-founders of Big Hit. She was in a personal situation, where she had to sell all her stake. I don't know, who knows the exact reason. I wasn't able to figure that out. And it doesn't look good if a co-founder or the major executive like her wants to sell out her shares. So fund number one, E&P fund number one, was traded in a like an emergency liquidity vehicle to clean up her stake, which is why it came with no upside for Bang Si-Hyuk. In order to attract new investors. Okay, fund number two happened after BTS had broken globally, with especially with the album with Boy With Love was listed, and investor demand was sky high because of that. After BTS proved that they are not the so-called one-hit wonder, and their success and popularity are sustainable. So HYBE returned to a normal industry standard contract. And comparing the two without context is kind of misleading. Next, they hid it from the IPO filing. And HYBE did disclose the total float and submitted the contracts to their underwriter. Now, to prove deception here, you would have to show those missing details directly affected the market. And that's a pretty high bar, legally speaking, and one that's not currently met. And then they talk about relation rumors. Wasn't he secretly colluding with?
Hi boy, he seems pretty fair. He's like presenting this information to us. It's not like opinion based, really.
I feel the bias, but he is presenting. Yeah, he is presenting good.
Maybe like in the tone of when something is like more
Mm.
in favor of HYBE or not in favor. But aside from that, I don't feel like it's like heavily slighted one way.
Kim Jong-dong to build a fake fund. Again, Kim Jong-dong was HYBE's early VC, venture capitalist, and strategy advisor. So yes, but he had no official HYBE position when those funds were created, and he
That does not matter.
Oh.
The official position does not matter. As I said, it
You
could be
think-
just inferior of his. Yes, he's still the backer. Like, no, like that is,
But he
it does
had
not
no-
matter.
Can you move money without having an official position like that?
He didn't have he didn't yeah, you can. If you like an investor, you can tell your directors what you want to do. Why not? There is shareholder meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Was it said in the meeting officially?
That's what I'm saying. There has to be some sort of proof, because we cannot jump to that conclusion just because it looks like that, right? We can't say, oh, this is what you did because you're friend. No, that doesn't work. But if you did do that, that's a crime. So there has to be proof, of course. But this sounds like a legitimate accusation. But of course, just saying you did that with no proof, it doesn't mean anything. There has to be proof.
didn't operate them. Both funds had independent managers and external capital. So, saying they knew each other doesn't automatically equal conspiracy. How about Bang Si-Hyuk secretly filed for a special audit just to fool investors? Because 지정감사, a special audit, is major part of IPO, and when you do that, it shows that you have a clear intention for going public. But actually, it turns out that the audit was requested by another group of shareholders, original investors, not Bang Si-Hyuk. Okay, so the idea that he was secretly plotting that move
Yeah, I don't know how an audit would trick investors. I'm not sure what this is. How is this an argument?
behind everyone's back doesn't really hold up here. So, how about this? Bang Si-Hyuk violated Article 178 of the Capital Markets Act, and that's clearly illegal, period. So Article 178 is designed to punish market-wide manipulation targeting the public. And this case revolves around private contracts between a handful of shareholders. And even the Supreme Court has said Article 178 is about protecting the fairness of the market, not the gains or losses of individual players. But retail investors got racked right after the IPO, they say. Again, first day one, yes, that happened. But HYBE was hardly the only IPO that slipped after, failing to
Yeah,
double on debut.
this doesn't
Its
hold
float
water
was
for me.
low,
I don't know what
and the
this
drop wasn't.
these accusations there. Yeah, the fact that it dipped on the first day, don't sell. It's gonna bounce back up. It's not like somebody forced you to sell. That if you sold the panic, that's on you. I don't. That has nothing to do with HYBE or Bang Si-Hyuk.
Considered extraordinary compared to other listings at the time. He even burned the national pensions money. Actually, that's a hard no because the National Pension Service made money.
Again, I
tons
don't
of
really see what does pension have to do with this. That's again, they made an investment. Don't invest.
money. They
I don't know.
invested
It's
in both
stupid.
HYBE's major pre-IPO funds and earned billions in
'cause
gains.
It's
So far
pension. It
from
hits
a
close to home to a lot of people, I guess. But it's just any other investment fund. Like it does.
victim. They were actually one of the biggest beneficiaries.
I guess
And then
overall
people
it
talk,
just
well, like
opens up
BTS
the
just got
gates of what else is going on, because if I was like part of this company, then I want an accounting done to see what else is they're cooking up,
Yeah.
because this is what is exposed. What else? It has to be more.
lucky, and they inflated the IPO on hype, and saying IPO was hype more than just substance. But I think luck doesn't give you like back-to-back Billboard number ones and sell out stadiums.
I mean, it doesn't matter if they got lucky or not. We can sit here and debate.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't matter though. Luck is part of life. They got lucky, yeah, sure, and they inflated, yeah, okay. And what? That did happen though. This is not. That's factual. They did hit number one. They inflated the IPO on hype. So how? That's not a crime. So they. I don't know why we bring this up.
On multiple continents, and that sustained performance, and markets rewarded HYBE accordingly. But interestingly, so some people say that HYBE's IPO was a destiny. It was bound to happen. But at the time, there were a lot of people, especially investors and experts, who doubted BTS' sustainable success, and they called Big Hit or HYBE very BTS focused company. I mean, it is still a BTS focused company, but
It
if
is,
something
right? I
happens to
was about to
BTS,
say
the
that.
whole company would fall apart, which is the reason that it's hard for them to go public. And
You
that doubt
think it's
was a
still?
huge.
I don't. I think
Yeah,
it's a
come
good.
on. That company without BTS and New Jeans don't make that much money. New Jeans, when BTS was in the military, they came out. New Jeans really was going hard, but now New Jeans, nah, they need one of them. They need one of them. That company ain't. I mean, they wouldn't fall apart, but they wouldn't be what they are.
Huge risk factor at the time. So saying that BTS was bound to succeed globally and saying that Big Hit was bound to go public does not really make sense if you think about the conversations that happened around the time, and it's part of what I call the hindsight bias. Okay, what about this? Pang Si-Hyuk used the earnout cash to buy a huge mansion in LA. So
Nothing illegal
he
with that.
flexed. Now, the bulk of that earnout went into taxes, more than half of it. So
That's
he
why
flexed.
I'm wondering. Everyone's like
he took heckle.
confused. How much did he get from this? Because all of a sudden he's flaunting this wealth. Whew. How much money did he get?
Does
Is
not matter. That is not
Because
illegal.
no, because like listen, if I give you like a deal like this, you're gonna give me a cutback.
Whatever. It's not illegal to buy. If he made that money, he declared income on it. He paid the tax on it. Whatever he spent with that money, none of our business.
So 210 billion Korean won were paid in taxes straight to the taxman, and another large portion of the earnout went back into HYBE itself as paid in capital. Okay, so instead of selling out his shares, Pang Si actually put more capital into HYBE as part of investment. And the LA property that they're talking about was bought as a working hub
Okay, and now this is where the stand-up is showing. Oh, LA probably was for the artist fork and network. That's strategic base, not a personal sports. Okay, stop it.
for artists, which in the U.S. entertainment industry is a standard strategic investment, not a personal luxury splurge or something. So, at
It
the
can
end
be
of the day,
both.
what will the judges
Stop it.
actually consider? I think is in three parts. One, did Pang Si-Hyuk intentionally try to delay IPO expectations? Two, mislead investors. Second, was the earnout contract something investors should have been told about during the IPO? In other words, should it have been disclosed as material? And third, if and above all, did anyone actually suffer real financial harm because of it? Existing shareholders, to be specific, did they suffer real quantifiable financial harm because of it? Okay, and if those three pillars aren't proven, it becomes very hard to get a criminal.
So from these
conviction.
three, what do you think we got?
Number 2 is a definitive yes. That to me, there's no discussion about that. That's a definitive yes. Number 1, we need to see what proof they have that he did in, because without the allegations are there, I understand the allegations, but without not seeing exactly what was said, I cannot have an opinion, because allegations is an allegation. Without that, without the proof, what is good for? Existing shareholders suffer real harm, quantifiable harm. I don't know. This one is for courts to decide. I don't know. I can't answer that.
For me, I wonder, how do you separate that from 2?
From 2, that the earnout contract should have been disclosed. Simply, earnout contract should have been disclosed, but there's a separate.
No, because the earnout's very beneficial. Like,
Yeah,
if I don't get the earnout, I'm harmed.
Yeah.
I feel I lay on the ground, I'm harmed.
Well, but isn't the earnout just to executives though? So those shareholders weren't executives. They wouldn't get paid anyway.
Shareholders. Oh.
It's only executives, so like CEO, CFO, CIO, all those type of C-level executives. The shareholders don't get the earnouts, so it wouldn't matter to number 3. But number 2 is a definitive yes to me. I think that should have been disclosed. There's no debate about that. Did existing shareholders suffer real quantifiable harm? This is a little tricky because hindsight is always 2020. What if those people had never sold? What if maybe then Hive wouldn't have gone public? So if they would have never gone public, or if they had gone public, maybe they wouldn't have as successful, because one of the shareholders wouldn't have voted in one decision that made them successful. It's a slippery slope on that one.
Because I feel like
the third one is a slippery slope.
There was people left out in the dark for some to benefit, obviously.
That's where number 2 comes in for me. Yeah, and I do think number 2 is a definitive yes. Number 3, I don't know, man. Courts will say what it is. This is very, very tough. I don't have an answer. Number 1 is we need to see proof.
Yeah, I think when we see more proof.
Yeah, number 1 is we need to see proof.
A better answer. And what the courts will go with.
Now, question is, are these like 3 different lawsuits, or one lawsuit and all 3 need to be proven?
That's why I thought it was all 3.
Because if all 3 need to be proven, then this is a high bar. But if one of the 3 need to be proven, then I do think the number 2 is a yes, and he's going to get convicted.
But the final.
I don't know if people have taken this risk. Like, if you're going to calculate your risk and odds, if you were to be in court and they need to prove all 3, then I would have taken the risk.
All 3 is very high bar. It's going to be very hard to prove all 3.
Roll the dice.
All 3 is going to be very hard to prove. That number 3, man. The number 3
just
is
for that
really
number
hard to
2
prove.
alone, it's not worth the risk, because they'll get you on number 2.
Number 2 is just purely wrong. Like, even if it's not illegal, it's morally wrong.
Final answer, final judgment. For that, we might have to wait for another 2 years or 3 years or something. So that brings us full circle. As you can see, this isn't a simple, good versus bad story. It's very messy legal and financial disputes involving market procedures most people never think about. Which is exactly why.
If it goes in his favor, what are going to be repercussions for him? Like, what he's going to do to make himself whole again? Because now he's going to be 2 years tied into this. That's stressful. 1.
I don't know. Go about his life. I mean, there's really no win in it for him.
Yeah, it's embarrassment.
Yeah, like if he loses, it's bad. If he wins, there's no good.
2 years, people gonna forget. Like, okay.
Yeah, like nobody cares.
Won?
If he won, nobody cares.
But we already dragged you.
If he wins, nobody cares. If he loses, is really bad. So it's like there's no win in it for him.
I guess he just should enjoy the new splurges in life. Yes.
Headline level outrage leads to so much misunderstanding. And again, I'm not here to defend anyone blindly or to condemn anyone blindly, including even these people who write these kinds of comments. But I just believe that we should understand the context before deciding what to think. And the reality is, this case will drag on for years. And whatever the outcome, the facts that come out along the way will matter. In the meantime, there are.
Yeah, it's a complex case. It's a very complex case.
Okay. Can I see the comments?
This is not something even simple. Army who aren't concerned about this witch hunt do not understand how tightly connected BTS members are to PD Bang. BTS would not exist today without PD Bang. I would not exist today without BTS. This is what I call a symbiotic relation. And one suffers so do the other two. Thank you, Highboy, for staying the course.
Aww. Oh, is that what I want to see? It's like,
Yeah, these are all like Army, just
yeah, fan
basically. Yeah, I don't
comments.
really want to see what Army
I
has to
want
say.
what people
'Cause
think of the game.
yeah. It would seem that those three questions should be easily answered if proper investigation was done. Yes, I think you have done more than in this wise. Yes, all those three should be answered. Especially number one should be easily answered because allegation without no proof is just allegation. I'm always innocent until proven guilty, so he's still innocent.
Maybe they're not showing where the proof is coming from to protect that
If
person.
maybe
or
I don't know, but if
the source.
until we need to see proof. What is the proof for that number one? Number two though, he does look guilty to me on number two. Number three, I honestly I have no idea. Number three is very very tough, very tough question.
Okay, guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And always, share as much kindness as possible. Bye, guys.